Welcome back to another episode of The Banana Show, where we speak about everything self-improvement and mental health related. I'm your host, Banana, and today we're going to have a special guest, Ben Friedman. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, as I always say. He has been diagnosed with dyslexia from a young age, and he is a primary school teacher from North London who lives with his dog Otis and his wife of 2 years. So stay tuned. He'll be on shortly. And I hope you guys enjoy the show. I've never spoken about dyslexia on the podcast before, so I'm a bit excited to do this episode because I know it's a bit taboo and I know what it means, but I don't know what it's like to have someone go through that because it's not very popular here in Jamaica. Also, I know that you guys miss me. I took a week break because my puppy died and I wasn't going to force myself to post. So I decided to come today and this episode will be out Sunday. So yeah, guys, I am happy to be back. I'm so sad about my puppy, but I'm happy to be back. And I hope you guys enjoy the show. Remember to like, subscribe, share. And if you're listening from Apple Podcasts, leave a comment, a positive comment, so that I can get some more viewers and listeners. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into the interview because I feel like I'm rambling now. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the interview. Okay, thank you for coming, Ben. I really do appreciate it for you to come on the episode today. And since we're going to talk about dyslexia, a lot of people in my country, which is Jamaica, they probably know what dyslexia is, but not really know what it is at the same time.
It's dyspraxia. So dyspraxia. Slightly
That's how it's pronounced?
Yeah, dyspraxia. There's dyslexia and dyspraxia. There's two different things. They're a little bit different. I can explain that if you want.
Okay, you can go ahead and explain.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here and talk about, and obviously that's what I want to do. I want to talk about these things because they're not talked about enough. So I have dyspraxia. So dyspraxia is to do with coordination, spatial awareness. I don't have very much of it. Organization, so that's physically organizing, and even my brain is all very mishmash, and it's a bit like that. That's how I've sort of grown up. So there's lots of struggles I've had throughout my life. For instance, my handwriting, I can't write properly because of the coordination of the pen. Playing sport was very hard. So for a young age, I couldn't catch a ball. My coordination was all over the place, knowing drawings. There's lots of different things that I've had to grow up and learn ways to help me. Dyslexia is more to do with mixing up with numbers and letters. And so it's linked in the way that they also don't have good handwriting like dyspraxia. So there's a lot of links, but they're slightly different. So yeah, that's
does it like affect how you like your motion and stuff like that? Like if you're going somewhere, you walk slower than what it will be considered normal and stuff like that?
It's actually so talking like I would have to think about things more when I was younger, more to think about where I'm walking. For instance, I have, and I still do, bump into things. And when someone wouldn't normally bump into things, I have done just because spatially I've just misjudged something. Also curbs, sometimes I even trip up on myself. If the curb gets a bit higher and I don't see it, I've tripped up before. So it does affect me sometimes, not so much now. And now I'm, I run and wherever I can, it's very easy for me now. But I do, when I was younger, I did have to think about it a lot more.
Oh, so how did you function in that space as a child? How did others treat you because of it? And how have you experienced going into a space and others not understanding and as such treating you different, negatively?
So, growing up, I was told I was diagnosed when I was 4 years old, so very young. I don't remember obviously that whole process of it. But what I do remember is being at school, and being a little bit different, not being able to draw something or not being able to follow a simple instruction very well because I might have got confused or forgetting my homework. My peers, it's hard to say. Like it's very mixed. I think a lot of people, for instance, when I was in secondary school, because of my writing, my parents actually spoke to school and arranged me to get a laptop. Unfortunately, then I developed a nickname as Laptop Kids because I was the only child in the class that had a laptop.
Oh.
Um, so that did affect me. You know, certain things I got wrong. I was people made fun of me for it. And that's always had a real effect. It's affected me today because I just still now think I'm doing something wrong, and I overthink if I'm doing. Am I going to look really bad if I do something? So I think it's all down to why I've gone through my mental health journeys because of some of those instances when I was younger that have affected me today. So I still think back to a lot of those moments of people pointing fun at me because I couldn't kick the ball straight, or I didn't catch the ball very well, or I brought up my laptop. So all those things have probably had an effect on me today.
I understand that. I can only imagine how difficult it's been realizing that you're different and having to control something that you can't control and physically function in an area where nobody is similar to you or have this problem. So they do have a problem understanding. So how did they pick up the signs to say this is what happened to you? Like what are the signs you could look for in an individual?
I don't know what it was that they picked up on to say that I was dyspraxia, but I'm guessing probably my coordination probably wasn't um, as like a normal child, I suppose. I think I had problems with my speech, so that was also highlighted. I had problems with my speech. I had to go to someone to help me with my speech. Even now, I do stutter sometimes, but it's very, very minimal. So I think my brain is thinking so far ahead for me, my voice to catch up, and that's what normally happens. On my podcast, I do it all the time. I'm just like I get right into it, and I'm speaking, and I'm asking the question, and I've sometimes realised that some of it's just you know
All over the
murmurs.
place.
Yeah. So I think it was to do with my coordination. So maybe I wasn't, for instance, getting dressed was a challenge when I was younger. I couldn't do buttons. I couldn't do shoelaces. I still can't. My shoelaces, I tie them, they'll be undone in 2 minutes. Like it's just everyone knows that about me. Like I can't do it tight. I try my best. For my own wedding, actually, I decided not to have laces for that particular purpose. So I managed to find some really nice, smart slip-on shoes to go nicely in my wedding. So I think it's little things like that. I can't remember, to be honest, what it was that they picked up on. I mean, it's very rare for someone that young to be diagnosed. I think usually
Yeah.
you wait until they're like 8 or 9. Being a teacher, I know that you wait. Those sometimes children are slower, so sometimes you wait for those first early years for them to develop, and then when they get to maybe 6 or 7, and they're still not where they should be, then you start questioning: is there something more here?
Yeah.
So it's quite unique. This woman, my nursery teacher, picked up on this and said to my mum, I think he could be dyspraxic. And obviously my parents
They
didn't know
don't
what
know
this
what
was,
that is.
and spoke to a professional. And, we're still learning. I think going through this, I have learned loads more about myself.
That is great. And, that's a lot to take in and a lot to deal with as an individual. I know that you're a teacher. How did you um, achieve being a teacher with all these issues
It's a very
and
good
having a
question.
problem focusing on stuff? How did you manage to become a teacher and move forward in your career?
It's been with struggles. Certainly with being a teacher, you have to be extremely organized, and obviously someone that struggles with organization, it's always been a challenge. I've had loads of support from my family. I've had some colleagues that have been really supportive, but training to be a teacher, the training side of things was, it was okay. I managed to get through it. It was not particularly anything affected me, but it's more the paperwork that was very hard.
Oh,
So once I had a system. I'm very IT literate, which really helps. So that in terms of anything I can put on IT, I can organize things on the computer. kind of in terms of actually becoming when it actually became a teacher, I no, I've just learned things that as I've done it all my life. I've learned things to help me, things that I do to make myself extra organized. Maybe these things take me a little bit longer than maybe the average person, but I've just learned
Wow.
to adapt. For me, my kids come first, and I always
Mhm.
make sure that they've got everything they need. But yes, some things may take me a bit longer. I do, as a teacher, probably work a longer hours than maybe a normal teacher because I
Yes.
do. Sorry, excuse
Very
me,
good
it's my
puppy.
dog.
Can I see him?
Yeah, come on. Can you see?
Oh.
Yeah, but he's now disturbing. So can you sit? Good boy. Just stay there. Um. So yeah, I've always made sure I'm prepared to the maximum ability. I'm like I said, I'd help my community. Just 2 seconds. I had to take him out of the room. Sorry.
That's
Come in.
okay.
Come in. Come in. Yeah, but I can't have it on live on a podcast. Yeah, but you're not on a call, are you? Please. All right, fine. Okay. Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. So sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yes, that's happened a few times in the podcast. I've had that.
That's
Usually,
okay.
yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, we were
So
talking about how you like managed to be a teacher and you organizing on the computer and stuff.
yeah,
Like,
so with lesson plans, I'm very. I do think I have that creative mind where I can plan lessons, and yeah, I've just learned how to organize myself on a computer. And I suppose that's come from all the years at school where I had to type up what lessons I was doing, put them in a folder, make sure that folder was in that folder, and I've just learned these little tools that have really helped me. Yes, I do make mistakes, and unfortunately, that's going to happen. Sometimes the mistakes that can be quite costly. Forgetting certain little details, and that unfortunately I can't change about myself. It's going to happen. I
that's
always, I
okay.
always, I always feel to me to get to this point is something I could never have seen. I still think I'm very proud of myself to become a teacher despite
Yeah.
all my difficulties and despite all the hurdles.
Yeah, your resilience is really good because a lot of us that are able to do certain things, we still can't even get through it because we can't focus enough or have resilience to get through it. So that is actually very good. What are some tips that you have learned functioning with the sickness that you would share with somebody today that might have it? I know that it's rare, but someone that might have the issue and they are having problems coming to terms with it, much less functioning as a normal individual.
I think it's trying to find people that are alike. So, we got in touch with the Dyspraxia Foundation, where I read some different stories and testimonies of people. But it's talking about it. I think I've always been quite ashamed to talk about it. There's still part of me that doesn't let completely go. And when I come to it, it's something I do feel ashamed about. And I can understand if someone did have it, did have it as a disability, I can understand them feeling the same way. And, there's in my research, lots of links with dyspraxia and low self-esteem because you don't feel you're good enough. And that's how I felt. As a big part of me is I do have low self-esteem. I've always felt I'm not good enough. I can never reach certain levels to what other people do. But I think it's just about informing yourself, also looking at information and just reading, doing a lot of research and speaking to people, make it normalizing it.
Yes, you have
Not
a
making it.
platform now, so bring it to light because it's very rare. So probably a lot of people won't talk about it, like how everybody know about anxiety and depression and bipolar and PTSD. A lot of
Yeah,
people don't know about this.
yeah,
They
because
might be yeah, they might be familiar with dyslexia. They heard the term one and two times, but they still don't know what it is.
yeah, dyslexia. And this is the thing I think I've been battling a lot. Is that people do unfortunately mistake in the two. And yes, there are certain similarities, but they are very different disabilities. And dyslexia, I feel, I did go to school with a lot more people with dyslexia. I think I can only speak about going to school with two people that was dyspraxic, whereas there's probably double the amount dyslexia. So it can, it is something that I'm, trying to, wherever I can, talk about it now. I've got to a point where I feel like I need to talk about it because I need to normalize it. I need to stop being so ashamed about it.
Yes.
Um, and open myself up a bit. I think that's why, one of the reasons I wanted to do my podcast was to be able to also give a glimpse of me
Yes.
as well.
And share your experience so that others won't feel like they're all alone with the sickness.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it's a sickness, but it's just it's a disability.
Yeah. How do you support someone that has this disability?
It's understanding. I think the biggest thing that has helped me is my friends have been understanding. So just taking that step back, and sometimes if someone does something that maybe is not normal or can't do something, try and maybe explain it a different way, or just taking that little bit of extra time. I felt with my friends, the good things they've always been good at is being patient with me. So if I can't do something straight away, they'll either help me or try and show me a different way I could do something. We're all different learners. We're all visual. Some people are visual learners. Some people are more hands-on. I'm certainly, if someone needs to show me something, if you explain it to me on the board, I'm going to be quite lost. But if you physically show me with my hands, I get it a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And that's what it's been. A lot of things when someone tells me instructions abstractly, like just, written down, I get lost. If I see it physically, then I find it a lot easier to copy.
Like in a chart format or like words?
Well, in terms of, if someone like, for instance, did a PowerPoint and said, this is how you do a podcast, I probably wouldn't be able to engage with it. Whereas what I've learned for my podcasting is YouTube videos of people physically showing this is what I do.
Oh, then you'll understand. Okay, so you're more a practical person.
Yes.
So in order to feel supported, you have to physically get into it rather than be saying, okay, from a PowerPoint, this is what you do.
Yeah, and even that will have its own difficulties.
I get that, because some things you have to like say, you can't really physically show. I guess that's where the problem comes in. But I'm glad that you're using your platform to talk about this and bring awareness. Is there any other questions I didn't ask? Because I myself, I'm not really too familiar, so I don't even know some questions to ask about these disabilities.
No, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I think you've covered quite a bit. As much, I mean, the only thing I would say is just, I suppose, how it's with dyspraxia, it interlinks with lots of disabilities, so ADHD, and there's a lot of, and dyslexia, like we said, but there's also, as I've done some reading, dyspraxia has a lot of links with anxiety and depression.
Oh,
and
wow.
there is a high percentage of people that have dyspraxia will end up with mental health problems, or will have to speak out to mental health services. So
you can go ahead.
Yeah, no. So it's very high statistically that what I've gone through. People have gone through something similar. Unfortunately for me, I've gone from into very dark places because of it, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy enough, always feeling that I'm lesser than people. I still feel like now, just little things. I would never, for instance, volunteer myself to go on stage or something like that, or even with social media. I'm not big on social media. I'm doing more because I'm doing a podcast.
Yeah,
but it's hard because I'm not very confident in myself, and I'm scared that I'll do something that someone will laugh at or think, Ben's done that, look at that, how silly is that. That's still in me, that's still there. And that's all stemmed from my teenage years, where unfortunately, teenagers, I can't blame anyone, because teenagers aren't as understanding as it's only when you become adults. And a lot of people that I've seen, I went to school with, and have become adults, there's a completely different conversations we have now. Which is and I'm sure a lot of those people have heard me do my podcast and have realized, I felt really bad when I did that with Ben. I go to, I was bullied, and it's had such an effect on me today.
I understand that. I feel like it's because disabilities tend to have like a stigma towards it, and
Yeah.
especially what you cannot see physically with a person in a wheelchair. You can't really see physically what's wrong with the person. So that makes it worse as well. And
Well,
then not having it normalized also make it worse. And then because people tease you and have negative things to say about you, it cultivates guilt and shame when this isn't your fault. And then you have to deal with that throughout your whole life, which then causes other problems like depression and anxiety, which you have to deal with while dealing with this problem, which won't go away because it's a disability.
yeah, I think what you said right at the start is exactly the example we used to use to school. Is because I felt like I was penalised because I didn't have something physically to show that I had a disability. Like I wasn't in a wheelchair, didn't have a walking stick, and I know it may seem quite cynical the way I'm saying this, but
Mhm.
I did used to say that you wouldn't get someone that has no legs to go and run a race.
That's true.
So what, certain situations I was being put into, that's the example I would use. You wouldn't, for me writing an essay by pen, that's as bad. That is
Yeah,
no,
that is
that my running
equally.
race. Yeah,
Yeah, that's equally taking a fish out the water and telling them to function on land. Doesn't
exactly,
it doesn't work like that. So I can
exactly.
I can understand where you're coming from, even though I've never had experience with this. I can understand why you feel the way you feel, and I hope that right now you're in a better place where feeling that you're not good enough, because you are good enough despite everybody is good enough. It's just the areas that we are strong in. And even as a normal able bodied person, an athlete is good at what he's good at. You would never tell a normal person to go run 100 meter because they probably pass out in like the middle of the race because their body isn't trained and used to that. So I feel like it's what we are good at, not necessarily what society tells us we should be good at.
Yeah, and I think that's something I've learned is that society tells you to be one way, but sometimes if you're not that one way, that's okay. That's your
Yes.
not. There is no such thing as normal as people say. I really don't think there is because everyone's has their own normal.
Yes.
And yeah, I am in a much better place. Hence why I'm talking about it because I think if I wasn't, I wouldn't be able to talk about it so freely. But there's still parts of me that deep down that affect me day to day, and I still have those moments where something will remind me, oh, I'll be honest, I hate having dyspraxia. I hate it. I can't love it. I don't
I
think
get that.
I don't think I ever will. Some people say, oh, you just got to love that's who you are, Ben. I was like, yeah, great, but I wish I wasn't that person. That's
I
just the
get
honest truth.
I get it.
But I'm in a better place where I feel that I've learned lots of different coping mechanisms and different aids that can help me in certain situations. Like, for instance, I said at the start of the show that I couldn't kick a ball. Well, I play football twice a week now. I can kick a ball very well now. But that's been years and years of me just not giving up. And obviously, my love of football has obviously helped as
Mhm.
well. But there's still, still, if I was to go in goal, I'm not no good at judging how far I'm in the goal. I'm just no good at that. That's still part of me. I'm still guessing
I
because of
get
my
that.
special awareness. But yeah, I definitely feel that I'm in a much better place to talk about it. And yeah, the more I do talk about it, the more people become aware.
And I know you have reached this far already, so it's only up from here. Even though you don't like having the disability, you have reached so far and have improved so much. So I can only hope that you will improve even more, even though it might take like a lot of work more than a normal person. But you have made progress throughout the
Yeah.
years and even done so enough to become a teacher. So that is something to be very proud of.
Yeah, and I do think about that. I do think about that a lot, and I am, like I said, I think being a teacher is one of my greatest achievements because of
Yeah.
all the things that like I said, organisation is a big thing. You have to be all these things that says that I really shouldn't be a teacher. Handwriting, I've worked my way not having to write on the board all the time. I just use computer. I type on the computer for the kids. My marking is all done by labels, not done by pen. So I've learned all these things that make me just as good as a teacher as someone that doesn't have dyspraxia, I feel.
Okay. I have one more question for you.
Sure.
How do you feel that our generation can bring awareness to this disability?
I think it's just been just talking about it a little bit more and actually being more aware of it and patient. And when you come across people with it, it's just asking the questions to understand, not just saying, oh, pretending you understand. Because I think I get that a lot, and it's not anyone's fault. It's just I get that a lot, that people, oh, I'll say I got dyspraxia. Oh, okay, and then they'll say something, the next thing that means they completely understand. I'd
I,
rather people say, okay, what does that mean, or give me an example. And it's quite hard to do, I appreciate, but it's more asking that extra question.
I understand that, but sometimes too, people are living in their own world. So it's like they can only understand as far as their perspective carry them to. So
Sure.
sometimes they don't prolong the conversation or don't try to be understanding because they won't understand at all, even if
Yeah.
they try to.
Yeah,
So
and that's fair enough for some people. That, but to
it's
me,
just to
if you
be
want to get to know,
respectful.
yeah, if you
Mhm.
want to get to know me, it's quite an important part of me.
Exactly. And, I do appreciate you coming, Ben.
No,
And
thank you so
you
much.
can let the people know what your podcast is about. And I'll put the
Sure.
description in the box for you so that when they want to listen to your podcast and find out more information about this disability, they can go ahead and do so.
Sure. So my podcast is called Talk to Ben. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, Amazon. I'm on all the major platforms. The idea was basically because I've suffered with my mental health quite a lot over the years. I realized the thing that was helping me the most was just having a conversation like we are today, having a conversation, talking, connecting, and it really helped me. So I started off with my friends. So the first series is pretty much a lot of my close friends, but who have all gone through things in their life. Whether that's grief, whether that is an eating disorder or something like that. They've gone through these life events that could affect their mental health, and we're talking about them. And I'm asking questions about them. We're connecting, and that is the big thing behind my podcast, is just talking and connecting with people. And especially during this time, it just so happened that I started a podcast and then COVID hit, where people.
Same,
So
same.
it just worked out really well for me, because people. It was a lot easier. I don't know about you, but it was a lot easier to book guests.
Yeah,
So it just worked out, but it just even more rained home that importance of talking. There would be people that come off after the episode say, Ben, I'm so glad I had a conversation with you because I feel so good for it. And it is a good release. And I'm sure we're both going to get off after this recording, both
more
feel like we've had a
aware.
good
Yeah.
release. It's a good conversation. We've had a good connection. And that's what my podcast is all about. So if you really want to connect and listen to different life experiences,
Just
I've
click
got
the
there's
description box, guys. I'll
exactly,
plug his
exactly.
information there.
Thank you.
So I'm it's also Mental Health Awareness Month. So what are you doing on your podcast for Mental Awareness Month?
Well, actually, as we speak, I'm planning a special mental health awareness episodes. So
Okay.
in the UK, the theme is nature.
Mhm.
So I'm discussing my guests. I'm getting some of my old guests back and discussing what nature has done with them, and discussing with them, what they've learned through the pandemic. So just to connecting, just having different conversations. I think a lot of us have felt that we've got this completely different relationship with nature because of COVID, and what that is and what we can learn from the pandemic. So I've got a special episode that will come out this coming Friday, in line with Mental Health Awareness Week, in Mental Health Awareness Month. So that's what I'm doing. And obviously my podcast is in series 3 at the moment. I've just released another episode today. We talked about a person's come on to talk about preeclampsia, which is a condition I had never heard
Oh,
about
I've never heard about that, so I'm going to go ahead and listen to
yeah.
that.
So I'm still having those conversations as well. So it's worked out. My podcast is still going on. So doing all those connecting and talking, and we've got to keep talking.
Yes, we have to keep talking about it, which is the same thing that I'm doing with my podcast, along with addressing other issues that we might have apart from mental health in this generation. But I do thank you for coming, and I hope to see you again next time.
Yeah,
And
definitely. Thanks for
yeah,
having me. Honestly, thank you for having me.
yeah, thanks for coming. I do appreciate it.
No worries.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. I wanted to so thank you guys for coming, and thank you guys for continuing to support the podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and share, and listen to other podcasts on the podcasting platform. I will see you in another episode. Bye.